Scarlet Witch aside, her brother Quicksilver also got a big upgrade with this new update. Now, I don't have him level 80. I don't have him tier 4. So this review is quite early, I would say, but it's also necessary to do it this early because he seems to be very undercooked. And undercooked in this case doesn't mean that he's on the level. It means that he needs a lot more done to him. So in a good way. So I do urge the devs to take a second pass at Quicksilver, mainly because they decided pretty early on with this uniform that they wanted to make him PvP for sure, keeping his iframe ignore, etc. But then they didn't really go anywhere with his defenses, giving him only super armor and 30% damage reduction. For a character to compete in PvP in this day and age with no revive, no immortality, and also no damage reduction, he has 0 base damage reduction, is impossible. And so you consider that the fact that Quicksilver is a native tier 2, and we're just going to take another native tier 2, like let's say Thanos, for example. I know he's a more expensive native tier 2, but he also doesn't have revive, and he also doesn't have immortality. Let's go take a look at how much damage reduction Thanos has. Okay. Let's take a look. 55% damage reduction. Wow. So between 0 and 55, there has to be a number that Quicksilver is applicable for. Because I'm telling you right now, it's not 0. If it's 0, then then the Quicksilver uniform is useless. And if it's 55, he might be too strong. I'll give you that. But it's got to be somewhere between 0 and 55. I would reckon at least 20, 30% should be his baseline damage reduction in order for him to actually stand a chance. I mean, even Echo here, who's a native tier 1 character who recently got a tier 4, she has 25% damage reduction. And I know he has guaranteed dodge and all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to go ahead and check out someone like Angel, who's also a speed character, who also got a tier 4 recently. You see where I'm going with this? He's got 35% guaranteed dodge, which is not 45 like Quicksilver, but it's still 35%. He also has the super armor and the 40% defense. And then if we to look at his uniform, okay, he actually doesn't have damage reduction. Okay, he genuinely should have damage reduction. But this is also why Angel is only used for his debuff cleanse. So yeah, the Angel, I didn't like prep this ahead of the video. The Angel comparison is important because Angel and Quicksilver having the same passives is kind of an insult to Quicksilver, considering that he's native tier 2, whereas Angel is native tier 1, right? So you can make that argument that he should have a leg up. At least, and that's assuming also that you acknowledge the fact that Quicksilver doesn't have that debuff cleanse for allies like Angel does. So actually Quicksilver is missing things that Angel has, and again, they still don't have damage reduction. So that's really the issue here, is PvP doesn't work for a character if they don't have immortality, revive, or damage reduction, and they gave Quicksilver none of those things. Now, as far as his skills go, I'm not gonna complain too much about them. Yeah, he's got like no iframe on 2 skills except for the beginning of his second skill, and he's just standing there. He's also just standing there here, but this skill's got some nice AoE and looks flashy. 5th skill looks pretty cool, and yes, it is an iframe. And then of course we have, and also Wanda comes in, which is really nice. And then we have his 5th skill where he stops time for a second and then he goes. Now, I've also seen players complain about this, and I will acknowledge that for PvE it's really cool when you stop time. It looks really dope. But for PvP, having a windup like that doesn't actually affect the enemy is a recipe for disaster. So I think the devs need to tweak this. I think the enemy should slow down at the beginning of Quicksilver's 4th skill, just like it's shown here. I don't know if that would make him too OP or what, but it's very difficult to use him otherwise. But in any event, the build we have on him right now is a CTP of energy. I know it's a PvE build. I'm going to showcase a bit of what he can do in PvE, and then we're going to go straight into PvP and just watch him get slaughtered. We're going to try stage 40 of Gore. I know Gore got nerfed recently, but this is still a pretty high stage for a level 70, and I want to just highlight the 2 different rotations that you can use for Quicksilver. I did actually miss my procs just there, but the 2 rotations are basically straightforward. You cancel everything into 4, and then you cancel everything into 6. Now, a couple things I want to note, because this is a pretty high level of content, is it seems like Quicksilver's guaranteed dodge doesn't really work here because Gore is a much higher level. It also seems like I need above 100% ignore dodge to hit him consistently. So both of those things would obviously be solved pretty easily by just getting a level 72 or level, whatever, 80 Quicksilver. But That aside, I want to talk about the pros and the cons here. So one of the pros is that you can make him basically 10 out of 10 proc friendliness if you want to use him for PvE by just canceling everything into 4 or 6. Now, there is a slight delay on 3 if you want to get the most hits, but that makes him a little bit less proc friendly because it's difficult to time. So you basically just have to decide what you want to do and then stick with it. So I've been showcasing the sort of cancel everything into 4 or 6, and despite the fact that his 4th skill has more hits in the skill preview than his 6, 6 does more damage. So you do want to proc on that when it's available, but basically what you would do here is you would do delay and then go. If you have a delayed onset proc like that, you can easily cancel the 3rd skill, but otherwise you do have to figure out the timing. But as you can see here, he has a bit of a proc issue, mainly because, again, Gore is so high level compared to him right now. But that's pretty much it for the pros. There's a long list of cons, which is why I'm, fairly confident that Quicksilver is, for all intents and purposes, a PvP character. I want to showcase that was a brick. I want to showcase his AoE because it's not great. If you start a rotation when Gore's dashing, you will just attack nothing. You'll basically just be doing nothing, but he's doing all right for now. But yeah, AoE is an issue for him for sure. AoE is an issue besides his tier 3. He just doesn't have a lot of it, and he doesn't have good tracking. And then also, it's just difficult if you're not delaying the first proc. It's difficult to line everything up for the next one because of the delay on 3. I still say he's proc friendly, but it's definitely less proc friendly than just canceling everything. But you are sacrificing like whatever 15, 20 hits. There and there, yeah. Then we procced early because of the 3rd skill. I don't have a ton of practice, but yeah. You also, oh man, I need Gore to get the hell out of that stupid circle. All right. There we go. We should be done here. All right, we don't have to do a full showcase. I just want to showcase that he can do this stage. That's pretty good, to be honest. He'll probably be able to hit a lot harder at tier 4, but then again, I still think he's built for PvP. So I think you could build him for PvE if you wanted, and that's why I'm showcasing this with an energy. This is not to say that this is a hybrid build. This is not to say that he can do both with one CTP. I think he's pretty much useless with the CTP of energy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not that he gets guard broken and gets stun locked. He may have super guard break immunity. I'm not sure, but it's more that he just dies immediately. He just gets one-shotted. So I'm going to switch him over to a PvP build so that you guys can see that, but it's going to happen anyways. It's just going to happen a little bit slower so you can see a little bit more of his kit. I think a greed option would be like the proper glass cannon option, but again, I think this is sort of tier 4 only because he needs as much defense as possible. I think you could test with something like a conquest. Like Authority has the damage reduction that he needs, but then he doesn't have enough damage to chew through enemies' defenses. So it really depends on what you're trying to get him to do, but we'll test this out with a Mighty Conquest and see. I don't know if this is the best option for him. I certainly think it's one of the better options for PvP, but we did go ahead and give him 8 HP Urus, so we did bump his HP up, but it's still only 83,000. It's still, again, pretty low for a tier 3 level 70. And then if we go ahead and build a team for him, we'll be able to see how he does. Now, this is, of course, the top Vibranium players, so I don't necessarily expect Quicksilver to complete the whole team. You know, recently we've gotten some really amazing level 70 characters like Silver Surfer and Sentry. Quicksilver's probably not going to be able to hold a candle to these guys, but then again, we do expect him to do something here, right? So Echo kills Colossus, that's cool. Colossus, you know, not a very difficult threat, but if you're Quicksilver, we'll see. Anywho, here comes Quicksilver, pops the 4th skill, as you can see, doesn't do any damage, and then gets killed immediately. So part of this is because he's lower level. Part of it is definitely because he's lower level. Part of it is because he basically has nothing that he can do outside of his 4th skill. Because he only has one iframe ignore skill, you're basically just rolling the dice. I'm going to show you what he does against Colossus because it's interesting. He pops his iframe ignore skill. It does some damage, but because he has type disadvantage, it doesn't do enough to kill Colossus, right? And then if he manages to, unfortunately, do his non-iframe skill, he'll kill himself to reflect. So that didn't end up happening there, but it would have if he had, you know, gotten through his rotation. See here, you sort of had the same issue where he's just not doing enough damage. Now this, again, tier 3, tier 4 could solve this. He has type advantage here against Quicksilver, against Adam, excuse me. So you would hope that he can at least survive, which is nice. But wow, yeah, he tier 4'd me. This is crazy. Wow, I didn't think that was gonna. That was a cool fight. I'm not gonna lie, that was a cool sort of back and forth fight. But it really shouldn't be. You know, like you see how Wolverine one-shots Spider-Man. You see how Adam one-shots Carnage and Wolverine. It really should be that way. Oh, I died. Okay, so yeah, he only took 1 life of Adam. True. Let's see if Echo can take 1 life. Just out of curiosity. This is not an Echo showcase, but I'm just trying to see how much of this is, you know, Quicksilver being good versus just speed types having an advantage versus blast types. I don't want to make the whole video sound like excuses because, oh, he's level 70 tier 3 instead of being level 80 or being tier 4. But I was sort of torn between wanting to make the video sooner to get the criticism out there. I think valid criticism about this character, versus also giving you guys a fair showcase of the character. I don't think this is the fairest showcase. In general, I think, you know, showcasing PvP characters at tier 370 is only ever a good idea if they're really good at tier 370. Like I said, recently Sentry and Silver Surfer. Because most of the characters are just mediocre, right? Even if they're amazing at tier 4, in the case of characters like Thanos, they can be pretty mediocre at tier 370, and sometimes they can be mediocre at tier 380. You know, like as good as Jean was at the time, by today's standards, she probably wouldn't be good in PvP until tier 4 because the accumulation on her tier 4 would give her enough damage to sort of burst through some of these tankier characters these days, right? So it's kind of a tricky situation. I don't want to oversell or undersell the character, but I do think he's underbaked, right? He's undercooked. I do think that Quicksilver needs, you know, he needs more, at least damage reduction. He needs at least, you know, 30, I'd say 30, 40% damage reduction. Because, yeah, no iframe ignore, no immortality. Yeah, he just gets one-shotted. No immortality, no, you know, revive, that kind of thing. And the thing is, when they designed Quicksilver originally and they gave him 45% guaranteed dodge, that was cool and that was really effective for PvP because ignore dodge was really hard to get. Players don't remember if you haven't been around for a long time, but ignore dodge was really hard to get. Ignore dodge is really easy to get now. Super easy. Super easy to get on passives. Super easy to get on meta PvP CTPs like Greed. And so because of that, it kind of, you know, negates his value. Now, yeah, switching in and seeing him pop the 4th skill is pretty cool. And then because of the revive on characters like Adam, you basically get a second chance to pop it. So there we go. He kills Adam twice. He has reflect immunity from the conquest, which is nice here. But then, yeah, he's not going to survive. Okay. I think at tier 4, I could make a bit more of a splash here. But, yeah, I still think it's a tall order. And, again, especially when we've gotten really good tier 4s recently for PvP, very consistent tier 4s, like Silver Surfer, like Sentry. I'm sort of looking at Quicksilver like, what's your best case scenario, right? What's your best case scenario? Your best case scenario is you kill Silver Surfer with the 4th skill, and then he revives and you kill him again, and then you probably, you know, kill one of Sentry's lives or he kills you. That's not very good by today's standards, right? It's just not. And that's best case scenario. So I do think the devs have some work to do here with this character. I wouldn't leave him at the way that he is because I don't think he's good enough. That being said, my build obviously could use work. I could get his artifact. I could get, you know, him to 80. I could get him to tier 4. But I do want to speak for the players in my alliance and in other alliances who paid the price, upgraded the character, right? Got him to tier 4, got his artifact, maxed it out, whatever, gave him a brilliant CTP, and they were still disappointed with his performance, right? For all those players, and for the instincts that are telling me and telling other content creators that he's not quite ready for PvP, hopefully the devs will hear this and do something about it. But I am, you know, not going to hold my breath because at the same time, the devs have been very... they just don't rework characters anymore. They just release uniforms and say, whatever, it is what it is. They very, very rarely, like they reworked Odin a little bit, but they kind of nerfed him to make him stronger at tier 4. And then they sort of tweaked Thanos, and that's basically it, right? So I'm hoping because Quicksilver is native tier 2, he will fall into that category of, hey, let's buff this character up to make him actually worthwhile. But who knows? Anyways, hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of Quicksilver. Thank you so much for watching the video. Smash the like button if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.